Welcome, guys. Welcome back to the show, everybody. Greg Costa Jardula, TruthWire here, back from a little leave of absence with my co-host and trusted friend, coming to you live from, do you want to say or no? Not important. Yes, it's Fiorella Isabel. I don't know. Do you want to say coming to you live from?
I already said it. I'm in the U.S., so yes, people know.
Where's your microphone?
Not for too long. Oh yeah, you know what?
I mean, where's Johnny
set it up.
Echoing in a
Johnny didn't.
room.
Johnny completely
beautiful
forgot.
set. I know that Johnny came and helped dress that set for sure because
absolutely.
Yes, but microphone. I mean, like you were echoing like crazy. Yeah, guys, I got your emails and your text that even though the analysis is great from Fiorella, there's a lack of energy. So I was given orders to get healthy, get back in, and provide some energy. Maybe I can get my background to be as nice as Feast. Johnny wants to help me out with it, but thank you guys. I just had to take a little time off to get my health in order. I still got a big battle in front of me. No, I did not lose weight because I was sick. I lost weight because I stuck to a strict diet. 45 pounds I've lost, and I'm going to probably keep going for a little bit because I'm still on another diet dealing with inflammation issues. But wow, what an experience coming after the Luigi Mangione situation. I've always had eczema problems, and I've been trying to get to the core of it. Obviously, with our journey through COVID, we thought a little bit more like about wellness medicine, alternative medicine that's not covered by your insurance in the United States. I mean, there are tests that are covered that you can use and other medications you can get that you can use or refer. I mean, a little bit here and there. But I've learned so crazy, and this is coming out of COVID and changed my whole perspective. And that's why I really wanted to get to the core of it, because, fam, in Western medicine, they just treat the symptoms. Mm-hmm. So Western medicine treats the symptoms because they want to keep you as a customer, not as a patient, but as a customer. Where wellness medicine treats you as a patient, where they don't want to see you. They want to get you healthy, get you out there, and they use mostly supplements, thing your body needs. They go in and try to remove, they try to detoxify, and try to build naturally. And they also combine it with food and diet, and it's very important. And then the third medicine I was working on was Chinese medicine, acupuncture, their herbs. Their system is a little bit different. They don't necessarily go in there and try to detox. They do have herbs that do help, but their idea of medicine is to go to the organ, which is the organ that is designed to fix and fight those problems and supercharge that organ. That's what the acupuncture is all about. They believe there's a chi and energy. We're all electricity moving from us. And they believe there's little blocks in there, and they want to remove those blocks and get those organs working right. So everything plays a part. I bag on Western medicine a lot, but right now for me to be here today, I had to treat the symptoms because they're so bad. So I'm treating the symptoms as I am also working on an alternative, detoxifying way, and I'll be doing my acupuncture. So I'm using them all, but only one is covered, fam, by insurance, and the other ones are a little annoying. I went to the University of Miami, the dermatology program, and the doctor was really nice, but I mean, he could have been a representative for Pfizer. He didn't even want to run liver test or blood test or do that. He's like, nope, we know what you got. You got a deficiency. It could be a gazillion things where your inflammation is coming from. What we're going to do is we're going to treat the symptoms. We're going to give you steroids, which are going to get your body from stopping attacking it. And then we're going to put you on a bio, which is Dupixent. And that's going to targeted, it's a little bit more advanced. It's targeted immunosuppression, but that's what they want to keep you on. I'm using that just to stabilize and doing the alternate medicine to get better. But that's where I was, and that's the time I'm taking off. I'm still battling, but I'm here with you guys today. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it, fam.
Well, it's the truth. So, okay. So let's
I was buying you time so you can share the dickens out of the show. I want to remind everybody to share the dickens out of the show. I know for the last couple of years it's been kind of scattered with our journeys and stuff, but it's very interesting to see stuff that people are talking about right now, fam. But let's bring in our guest host or our other co-host, our brother from other, a guy like who's just kind of like joined the team. We joined his team. Man, I went to this dude's wedding, ladies and gentlemen, the one and only, the unbelievable Matt Weinglass.
What's up, guys? Hey, guys. Hey, putting the band back together, huh? Craig, welcome back. And yeah, thanks for having me on again with you guys.
Getting the league back.
Yes.
Yeah. So
all right, so
yeah, you want to get going?
No, we gotta get going because it's a lot of things to cover.
Yeah, fam.
And I have a
Oh,
heart out.
oh,
So
hard out. Got it. Listen,
yeah.
Trump calls the Epstein Files a hoax. What is the difference between Trump and Biden? You know, it's funny, family. On Matt's show the other day, I was saying, what's the difference? But there's no difference between AOC and Trump, and I really want to get it in there. They're all serving the same cause. They all work for the same masters. They all collect the same money. This is funny because I don't know if you remember that I almost got in trouble from some people because at the Bernie Sanders diner, which is not a diner, it's just an activist hub, I was not allowed to talk about Epstein in 2015 because you know why? I was helping Donald Trump. Now they love talking about it. Akeem Jeffries is out there. Now the Democrats want to talk about Epstein. So I know, fam, because we were like the only group, a leftist group, an anti-imperialist group that were bringing, Epstein to the table. We have a video, 500,000 views. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it's very intriguing to me to where we are today and where we are now. Maybe if Matt wants to just give a little quick cherry and put it in there real quick, his thoughts, and then we'll let you send it away and start getting into this.
Oh, yeah, no, this is another example of why we are literally living in the Twilight Zone right now. The back and forth, the fact that this is where people like us in this space right now, we can say it is about courage, it's about principles, it's about consistency. And now both parties are demonstrating that they're not about any of those things because they position politically on an issue that should be 100% not a political issue, right? We're talking about Epstein, we're talking about child sex trafficking, we're talking about these issues that should affect everyone, and both parties have made it, they've politicized it over these last several years, and now we're seeing the swap around all over again about what to be mad at and what to ignore. And so here we are, we're living in real time, but hopefully enough MAGAs are waking up and understanding that this is the moment to call BS and say, once we've seen behind the curtain, you can't unsee it. So yeah, there's, I think, a real populist revolt in the works right now that we haven't seen with any other issue that Trump has completely abandoned or 180'd on his tribe. And so this would be the one, I think, the final straw.
The shit line, Matt. Yeah. Randy, don't cross my shit line. We don't cross your shit line. They crossed the shit line with this one.
Yeah, this is the one. This is the deal breaker, I think.
Bam.
Okay, so we need to talk about what actually happened because, yeah, I agree. But the thing is, people are already trying to say they're going to go to Elon Musk's new party, that, they should go to the Democrats. I think there are mostly Trump supporters aren't going to go to the Democrats. That's one thing they won't do. But you have a lot of the Democrats trying to use this, as a way to get people back into the liberal side, which is what's happening with Zoran Mamdani, which is why I'm so against that, because it's the same kind of thing. I see conservatives as the ones who are not likely to do that as much, right? They're the ones that are more likely to perhaps try to go with some new party like Elon Musk or try something else. But this has been, I think, the greatest betrayal to MAGA, to the people who largely are the ones who got Donald Trump to where he is in terms of populist support. And so this is, I think, extremely insulting to his base and has, I think, destroyed what MAGA was as a whole. So it's definitely completely lit that on fire. I mean, literally, we've seen MAGA hats be burned. All these types of products that they had, all this MAGA stuff that people were using happily, anything to do with MAGA, people are revolting against that. So I think that's it really points to how bad this is because they're being gaslit, right? And so Pam Bondi is a large part of this, or at least she's the face that's been chosen to take the fall, right? And Trump has now said, okay, well, she can release whatever she sees fit from the Epstein files, right? Whatever she thinks is credible. Now, people think this is due to some sort of pressure, but it's mostly to just be like, all right, here's something and chew on that. And he apparently received a quick briefing on the Justice Department. And you can go ahead and pull up the first link, Jayme. And this is when he said, there was nothing there. There was nothing to look at. And there's no client list, which we've talked about before. I think everybody has talked about here on multiple shows. And that's it. I mean, but I think what really just lit more fire under this entire thing is how he said that this was a Democrat hoax, that the Epstein Files were a Democrat hoax that has been pushed by the Obama administration, that were made up by Biden and the Democrats. And not only that, he compared it to the Russia hoax, right? So he's basically saying that all the years of investigations, all the things he campaigned on regarding Epstein and exposing pedophiles and this sex trafficking ring and all these things that are so important to a lot of conservatives or a lot of people in general that join MAGA are just made up by the Democrats, when it doesn't make any sense really logically, because the Democrats never cared about that stuff. As Pasta just said, you know, you were helping Trump if you talked about it. So that's like a flat out lie, because the Democrats never gave a damn about Epstein, right? So it doesn't make sense to say that. It almost feels like he's just saying whatever excuse he has because he doesn't have one. So again, I just think this points to, once again, the fact that Donald Trump is not in control, and we've known that. But I think now that's exposed to the world. Like, he literally is not allowed to show this. And a lot of people have said, well, maybe because he's involved, maybe because, you know, there's a new Epstein and there's and Donald Trump's involved in that. That could very well be. But you have to remember, let's be honest, the reality is this is the most Zionist administration. Epstein obviously has ties to Israeli Zionist Mossad, as does Ghislaine Maxwell. And that is a huge part of this, I think, in terms of what Trump is and isn't allowed to reveal. And that is so much stronger than anything we have pretty much in our government. So I want to move on to the next thing, but if you guys have anything to say on that.
No, it's funny because I was just about to hunt down I'll just put a picture of the video up. It says Epstein and Mossad family ties. I think that's the video, has over 500,000 and stuff. And, you know, talking about this stuff a long time ago, it's just, it's mind-boggling that it's 24/7 and that they're pushing this as a kind of Russian hoax thing. I mean, just ridiculous. I do believe this is a crossing point. Please continue.
All right, so let's go to the video so you guys can all see what was said. If you can pull that one up. And this is where he says all of these things that really pissed a lot of people off.
No, she's given us just a very quick briefing, and in terms of the credibility of the different things that they've seen. And I would say that, you know, these files were made up by Comey. They were made up by Obama. They were made up by the Biden, we went through years of that with the Russia hoax, with all of the different things that we had to go through. We've gone through years of it, but she's handled it very well, and it's going to be up to her. Whatever she thinks is credible, she should release. Yeah. No, she's.
Can I say that this guy is so friggin' weak? Right? Like, this is what Patrick Henningsen was talking about on the show the other day. He comes off and I mentioned the WWE because they said, you know, Trump is going to try to do something decent throughout all this mess because he wants his legacy to be remembered. What legacy does he have right now? You know, and we talked about how the fact that he's so weak, he comes out and talks with this WWE, you know, attitude, which that's his legacy. He was in the WWE Hall of Fame. He's got that. No one can ever take that away from him. Don't forget that. But he says all these things and then he kowtows to people like Lindsey Graham and Dick Blumenthal. Lindsey Graham and Dick Blumenthal's ideology and plans and policies, more importantly, are in play far more than the President Donald Trump. He's weak. And I'm going to let Pam Bondi do whatever. I mean, just passing the buck. You weak-minded fool. And he does this stuff all the time. Why would the Democratic Russiagate hoax even come into play here?
Well,
So, go
what?
ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, Matt, like, again, it seems to me that Pam Bondi is the person that is actually going to take the fall, right? I think she's the one that's going to be the one that is literally the next one to go. A lot of people are saying Tulsi, and I do think her time is limited, but I think Pam Bondi is the one that's going to take a huge fall.
We already have one guy. Who was it? Who was the guy? Walls who got sidelined? Go ahead, Matt.
No, I'm going to say not just her taking the fall. I mean, her time is running short. She will be out. But the way Trump is defending her is this is the important part. No, she's not taking the fall in the sense as like, hey, she uniquely screwed this up. Let's get back to business and give you guys something fake. At least release something like we did with JFK Files, where we'll just kind of pretend that we're giving you something. No, I think he's actually doubling down on she did everything right. And then when it's time for her to go, then we can't really ask her any more questions because she's out and you bring in the new person. But he's certainly going all in on this. I mean, it's clear, like, especially even the last 24 hours, he's doubled down on how he even refers to his own base. I mean, he's calling them stupid. There's foolish and stupid, that his own base is foolish and stupid. And to me, that's kind of reminiscent of the way Hillary Clinton used to talk about her base that didn't get on board. You know, you suck. I don't need you. I think there's so many signs here. It's not just like Craig said, Trump is weak. He's behaving more and more like the Democratic establishment that he pretended to go in to fight every day. I mean, we're seeing more and more signs of that, even with his war policy, with his Ukraine policy. But now the way he even is talking, to me, is very familiar of you're either with us or you're against us. It's the vote blue no matter who strategy. And it's kind of, he's trying to shame his own base into shut your mouth. If you speak up, you're helping the other guy. We're the good guys, remember? We're not, so don't be stupid. Shut your mouth and get in line. It's very, very familiar of the blues that have been doing this the whole time.
Great analysis.
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole point of this title, right? Like, what's the difference then between Trump and the Democrats?
Mm-hmm.
Because then you're essentially getting that same mentality. And it's not just happening. I think this is a wake-up call for a lot of conservatives, because it's not just happening with the progressives who thought, oh, hey, like, we'll just, we'll hold them accountable, we'll put their feet to the fire, whatever X phrase was. And none of that happened. None of that came to terms. The same thing is happening with the right. And so what Matt said is true in the beginning is there is a potential for a unity of the people versus those in power, right? This is that one moment, I think, that is pushing us one step towards that. There will be people that will still go back and try to get Elon Musk to save them or a progressive to save them. That's already happening. We can't stop that yet. But I think this is another layer that's been added to push us towards that. It's going to take more than this, I think. I'm not as optimistic. I think it's going to take more. But I do think this is laying the groundwork of a lot of wake-up calls for people who are Trump supporters. Pasta knows my uncle who was a huge Trump supporter. Pasta, he is no longer a Trump supporter. Yeah. And this is now what I'm saying is these are real people who are not necessarily the most political, but are seeing the lies that Donald Trump has pushed out. And it's not just Epstein, though I think this is huge. It's the Palantir shit, the giving all the people into Palantir to big tech. It's also what's happened in Gaza to a degree, people seeing that and seeing in turn more so how Israel's in control of things has also, I think, pushed people the wrong way, because all of these Republicans are talking about, why do we have China interfering? Why is Venezuela interfering? And they say all these things. And then they're like, wait a minute, what Israel? What's going on with Israel? And I think that also was like the huge push. So I agree. We're getting in that direction. And we have to realize in the United States right now, even though there are like differences between the left and the right, in order for anything to get done, I think there is definitely a need for a top-down type of structure. And that's what pretty much has to happen. So
I'm sorry, I was just going to have
I wanted to piggyback off this analogy. One more thing I think is really important about the Hillary Clinton analogy I just made is that we see this from our lens of being done with the Democratic Party. We see this from years ago. I think that we can look at our trajectory and then understand where I believe the MAGA trajectory is. It's going to be following the same outline that we follow, the same blueprint, where we're getting told to shut up when they ousted Bernie and said, you know what, we don't give a crap. You guys are Bernie bros, just calling us names, saying, no, get in line. We got to stop this other thing. And we were like, we're done with this. And I think that when you talk about what populism is, What does that actually mean? I think the right was confused about what that meant because they believed that Trump was that thing for them, but yet he was always red the whole time. He never left that thing. We understood that on our side, and we left the thing. And now we understand that it's not about joining up on the next big hype, the Elon thing or this thing. I think it's about understanding that we are done with this two-party duopoly. We're done with this uniparty. And I optimistically am saying I believe that MAGA is following that trajectory right now. And it's not really about let's go get with Elon or let's go do that. They're saying we understand that the entire system is rigged and we need to do something different from a real populist point of view, not this fake one that we were rigged into thinking it was that, just like us. So I think we look at that trajectory. It might be hopeful for a real populist movement to start. And this is the key moment of wake up, as I said earlier. And I think we're heading into a new time now.
I think that really aids in the homeless left people, right? The leftists who left and are homeless and stuff. When we talk to these people, what you are talking about right now, recognizing our journey, it helps with the process of talking to them. Because I want to go, Trump tarred this, and then go off on him. But I also voted for Obama twice, right?
Yeah.
I bought into Bernie Sanders. I bought into we can reform the Democratic Party from the inside stuff. They're learning that, so I think that's important.
Yes,
Matt, when you talk about that, because it's really going to help us connect to say this whole system's we're all in the same boat, right? While the media will aid in what the oligarchs are doing and push the most extreme leftists, the culture war leftists, to make it look like that's what the left really is. No, there's just people out there who are against the empire, who are okay with immigration, who are, have all these other things that are leftists too as well, that don't play into that stuff. And that's the majority of people. They want to survive and live and eat and whatnot. But my question to you guys real quick is, do you not think it's a problem? Because Gaza wasn't the breaking point for what happened to be critical of the state of Israel. Yes, eventually, you see people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz come out a little bit and stuff. And I think the censorship is what pushed them over the top of Israel. But is there a problem systemically when it comes to conservatives that the fact that it was the Epstein, trafficking children is awful and stuff. But why has it got to be like, because they think it's our children, it's American children. Why does it have to get to that point for the Republicans or the conservatives in this country, and they're so prone to war that the slaughter of kids, mother, and children in Gaza is not the shit line, but the Epstein issue is? Don't you think that's a systemic problem, Fee? Because it's like they're always going to get back to that again, that mentality.
Yeah. I absolutely. That's why I'm not as. I think there will be. Like I said, we're on our way towards that populist movement or that people versus 1%, but that's going to require some sort of empathy. And I feel like we don't have that largely for people outside of our borders. And at least in the conservative aspect and in the liberal aspect too. They just pretend to have it. They really don't. They're not any better.
Exploited.
I think that's an evolutionary thing for me. Like, I think that's just something we're going to have to evolve as a society. We are a young country. When you look at Iran, it's such an old civilization. So there is a little bit of wisdom, a lot of wisdom when it comes to how things run. Same with Russia. They're older civilizations. They're older, they've been around for longer. We haven't. I'm not using that as an excuse, but I'm saying on top of that, we're largely propagandized. We largely look at things from our Western perspective, which is why I always try to bring in the other perspective. Like, for example, in that Tucker Carlson interview with Pezeshkian, I was trying to outline the differences in perspectives from people in West Asia versus Americans. It's a completely different perspective in many ways. And so I think, that's why we do what we do. And realistically, I think it will come. There will be another moment in time when you'll see the America First mentality go back to, okay, well, when it comes to war, that's where they get them. Right now, people are mad at Donald Trump. But if, for example, there was an attack, a false flag, and people got emotional, they would go back, I think, to that. If their belief hasn't changed strongly enough to understand how we're being played. It's several levels, I think, of understanding we're being played. There is no two-party system. It's a uniparty. The establishment / deep state intelligence military apparatus is in charge. It doesn't matter if you vote Democrat or Republican. We cause a lot of the problems that come back to us to a degree. And we need to be held accountable to that to a degree. And I think the held accountable part is the hardest part for people, because people say, well, I didn't do it. It's not my problem. We need to take care of our people first. It's that mentality, that Ayn Rand mentality of, that individualistic culture. And in some ways, the individualism isn't necessarily bad. But it's also because it makes us question things more. But it's also the other side of the coin, where people are able to collectively work together and get things done in other parts of the world. We've seen it in Latin America.
Yeah.
Pasta. We've seen it. We can't do that here because we have this mentality largely that we need to all take care of our own shit and pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. That's the American way. You can achieve anything if you work hard. And if you don't work hard, then, it's your fault, that sort of thing. And that's largely in the conservative aspect, but I think not necessarily. So I think we have to overcome that sometimes, it's not as black and white as that.
Yeah.
And that's going to take some time. Like I said, it's got to really, really, truly affect us to where we can see outside of our own, center of gravity.
Yeah. The conservatives, by the way, are very, really quickly, man, just 2 seconds there. I said they preach personal responsibility, but there's no national accountability from them. We do anything outside the borders, it's wait, you know what I'm saying? It's like, wait, I thought you're the party of individual responsibility. You don't want that when we have to be responsible for our own stuff. Sorry, Matt, go ahead, buddy.
No. Let me try and connect all these together with back to Epstein and everything you guys are saying. So this is an evolutionary process that does have to happen. It does take time. By definition, evolution takes time. We can't just snap our fingers and say, oh, the Epstein list disappeared. All of a sudden, we have a moral compass across the board. That's not that. So look, without demeaning people that are realizing stuff, because like you said, Pasta, we have to give them the space of growing and learning through the process. But this moment is that we could say this. It's a reveal moment. It's an aha moment, but it's also an opportunity moment for that learning to begin. If it hasn't started already, it's starting now. And the reason is because Epstein connects all these things all in one place. So before, like you got, and it's a fair question, Craig. I mean, you're saying, oh, why wasn't the breaking point Trump Gaza? Why that should have been it, or all these other moments where it's about empathy and understanding people outside of the American exceptionalism model and the capitalist model. Okay, so it didn't happen with those, but maybe seeds were planted. However, this is connecting everything to us and starts allowing us to care outside of this, because Epstein we're talking about the Mossad connection. We're talking about outspoken right-wing populists right now, like screaming at the top of their lungs, you're not giving us the connection, the Mossad agent connection. Why not? Now we start to care more about what's happening in other countries on behest of us and behest of Israel. And you have the child sex trafficking issue, which again, I said earlier, should never be a political issue. This is about the children. And then you have the border comes into play. You have all of the shady operations and the children missing now from down south that also affects us here, because it's all connected to our children. So we use this moment. The right is using this moment to say, look, the entire thing is rigged. We are the guilty ones. What else are we doing? And now they're going to maybe look at Israel and Gaza and all the other shenanigans in the Middle East and all the shenanigans south of the border. They're going to start looking at that maybe with more open mind to start this learning process. So I believe we're at this moment where this evolution can happen. And if it's not this moment, what moment would it ever be? This has to be the moment.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think this is the start, like you said. Okay, so the last thing I want to do for this section is just show this last tweet. If you can pull it up, Matt. I as kind of what you said, right? This is connecting the dots. So this person, MJ Free, posted, I'm going to post this every day so nobody forgets exactly who Donald Trump is and why the Epstein Files have suddenly disappeared. I don't necessarily think it's that simple, but I do think that there is some sort of Israeli. It's more about the Israeli Zionist ties for me than it is about Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump is the go-to for progressives, for liberals, for anybody. I mean, who doesn't like him? I mean, But outside of your emotions about how you feel about Donald Trump, let's be real. If it was anybody else, the same thing would happen. It's not about Trump. And this is what we have to remember. It wasn't about Biden. It's not about Trump. Remember, Biden the genocide began under Biden. Trump's carried it. The attacks on Syria began long ago, and they continued, especially under Trump. And then Syria fell. And then, now we have Donald Trump, and now we have what's happening in Syria again. We have all of these things. They're continuous. The continuity, we have to really remember about the continuity. And there's a reason why Democrats are trying to make this about Trump, because they can't really tell you that it's not about him, that it's about the Zionist intelligence ties to Israel. And that's what they're not going to talk about. They're not going to talk about all of that because they would all directly be involved. This is why they don't talk about wars. They don't talk about necessarily Trump in a negative way on the things they can't talk about, like the big, beautiful bill. We didn't really hear much about the giveaways to DARPA, to Palantir, to AI, and all of that. We heard about the cuts to social programs, to Medicare, to Medicaid, which are bad, yes, but that's expected with a Republican Congress and with a Republican president. But they're never going to talk about the other stuff because that also
Republicans, fam, I don't know why they're so keen to praise their politicians and their lawmakers punching down. Let's cut Medicaid. Let's cut food programs. Let's cut this stuff because it's wasteful. It's spending. Ayn Rand again, right? But yet, giving more money to Israel, DARPA, all these other things. This stuff is kind of mind-blowing. But I got to say this much, is that right now what's happening, I almost believe that they're setting up the Kabuki Theater for the Democrats to win next again, or sometime soon to figure it out where everybody's going. Maybe Gavin Newsom, for sure. I mean, I think he's polished and ready to rock and roll. He's definitely smart enough to hypnotize this propagandized voters or people or whatever. But what they're doing right now is with Donald Trump calling this a hoax. That's why he couldn't say it. I mean, this is ridiculous that he said it. Now the Democrats are saying, for years, we heard all you QAnon Republicans talk about Bill Clinton this, Bill Clinton that. And certainly when you look at it on paper, the Clintons were a lot more chummier, especially on the little children's side, getting massages from, teenagers, Bill, than Donald Trump was, right? Like there's no real proof that Donald Trump was even on the aisle. And then, Donald Trump did the thing where he threw Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago eventually. And, if you look at the business deals on paper, there was like a Russian bank business deal. But so you look at it and you're like, okay, he was involved in that world, Donald Trump, but he wasn't getting there deep into it. And now, a Democrat lackey, and that this is going to be a talking point. All those years you talked about Bill Clinton and Democrats getting in the leftists, getting all close with Epstein, and we had to deal it. Now it's on you, and you don't want to say anything about it. What are you talking about? No. Oh, if it's for real, then why did Donald Trump say it's a hoax then? Boom. Shut down, shut up. That's going to be the momentum builder. Those little things. Like you could see the Democrats now, when Gavin Newsom talked about on TV, and this is why I think he's going to be the president, when he's going to run for president, Donald Trump talked about Gavin Newsom because he's talking about California and the ICE raids and all how bad it was, and then he wants to have him arrested maybe if he interferes with ICE. So Gavin Newsom goes on TV, goes, all right, if you want to do something, you want to make somebody the patsy or whatever, then do it. Arrest me. Okay, I don't care. But stop terrorizing this immigrant community right now. You know what I'm saying? And once again, it's like the first part is bullshit, but Donald Trump is, the president right now, is ICE is going in there terrorizing a community. They're giving the Democrats these lanes right now. And it just seems like they're setting us up, fam. Right now, for the next 3 years, 3.5 years, we'll be bagging on the conservatives and Donald Trump, but it feels we'll be right back to where we were again, because here comes the circle again. The WWE, good guy, bad guy shit. It's happening again. And it seems like they're already preparing for it. And I think we need to start calling it out on both sides, little by little, each time.
No, yeah. And that's a good segue into our next section, because this is all part of the Trump agenda. So remember, Trump ran on ending the Ukraine war in 24 hours. Obviously, he wasn't going to do that, but he was at least supposed to end this war. And I think that I genuinely think that people in the administration and people who voted for him thought that he would at least do that. And I think that there was a shift when it came to Iran, because I think that they thought they could easily get rid of Iran. They could at least show that Iran was incapable of defending itself. And I think they realized by testing them in a way, because in this whole attack back and forth was a test in several ways, that that's not the case, that Iran is more than capable of defending themselves. And I think this was a wake-up call for a lot of people, including a lot of thinking for Russia, a lot of thinking for China. And so when we look back at what happened to where we are now, Donald Trump's actions in Ukraine began to shift in terms of, he always talked out of both sides of his mouth in terms of Putin, but then it became recently strictly negative when it comes to Putin. And now, of course, he has threatened Russia with more tariffs. He has also threatened Russia with more sanctions, and he's going to send Ukraine more weapons. And there's, of course, billions and billions, and some of these billions have already been outlined in the budget for the 2026 defense budget, and also in the big beautiful bill. You have all of these weapons for drone warfare, AI, and all sorts of things that are already there. So he just announced that he will tariff Russia until if there are continuous unsuccessful negotiations, right? And the thing is, Russia has been waiting for Ukraine to start up the negotiations. Remember, they were training prisoners, they were exchanging prisoners, they were set to do this. Istanbul was going to be the next phase, the second or third time, technically the second main time, and that never happened. It was supposed to happen at the end of last month. And so what happened instead is the attacks have continued throughout this whole time. Russia has been expanding and pretty much gaining the entirety of the Donbass region, has made its way forward into Sumy, and has continued, capturing or what they say is liberating all of these areas. And now Donald Trump has decided to continuously accuse Putin of being a nice guy, but then, bombing and striking Ukraine.
He's crazy, fam. He's crazy. He talks a good game. And then we get off the phone. I said, Melania, I'm talking to Putin. And then he bombs Kiev. I don't like that, fam. I don't like that.
So, it's like, before people thought maybe Donald Trump could be, especially in Russia, and I've talked about this before, Donald Trump is different than Joe Biden. Donald Trump is, he's going to at least have the conversations with us. And now it's like, okay, that's shifted. And I think that's also another wake-up call for Russia for understanding, I think, the people that still don't understand, although I think people like Putin and others do get it to a degree, as hopeful and diplomatic as they may be outwardly. And I think Russia is still keen on resolving this. Like, they really want to end this, but it doesn't seem like the United States wants to. And that's the thing. That's the problem, right? Where we're seeing the United States normalize relations, and it looked like they were going to normalize relations with Russia. But now, after Iran, it seems like there has been a genuine shift, because after Iran comes Russia, and after Russia comes China. So I just wanted to lay that out, because Trump has also now put the burden on Europe. And I want to ask you two, what do you think about that, about Trump putting the burden of giving billions to Ukraine on Europe, on NATO, essentially saying that NATO is going to pay for all of this, and all of this will be paid for, including the Patriot defense systems that he has promised Ukraine. And I think it's interesting, given the fact that Trump wasn't aware of how low our stockpiles were. Why is what do you make about Donald Trump then just putting the burden now on NATO? Is it because Donald Trump doesn't really want to go forward with it? Or is it just a tactic? I mainly think it's a strategy to make it look like we're, holding NATO accountable to a degree, when that's not the reality. I mean, the money's already allocated. The money's going to go to Israel and Ukraine. So that's what I think.
Matt, you want me to go first? Or you want to jump in there? Because I'll
just say quickly, and I'll pass it to you, Craig. the obviousness. I mean, it's so obvious at this point. This is not his decision to continue upping the warmongers' pockets and this insane, complete clown show going on in Ukraine, taking the Democrats' position, the same policy Biden has been doing, except for this part that you mentioned, Fee, the putting the bill on NATO. It's actually pretty genius of him to do that, because the fact that he has no choice, you might as well do it. This plays right to his base. This is what it's about. It's saving a dollar and making a deal. And that's and so all the people that were outside with us way back at the Rage Against the War machine the first time around, when it felt real, it felt like we were anti-war. It wasn't really about anti-war. It was about anti-democrat. That's what it really turned out to be. Unfortunately, I mean, we were there for the right reason. But now the same base that was out there saying this is complete bullshit, they are the ones saying, "Oh, look at Trump, look at our fearless leader that knows how to make a deal, so we don't lose out and go more into debt." But so it's a show for the base. But the point is, he's not in charge. He never was. He surrounded himself with neocons, warmongers from the beginning, and so this 24-hour thing was not only never going to happen. He's not making any step in the direction of ending this thing, just continuing it to go on into oblivion.
You know, Matt, I kind of said, why don't you tackle that? Because I knew you were going to hit that point. I've been hitting that point too as well. Like, because we saw that in Yemen, with the Saudi Arabia weapons deals. Hey, we're selling all these weapons to Saudi Arabia. Yeah, they're using them to kill people in Yemen as a proxy war for Israel and whatnot. But he was talking about the contracts. And even this time when he went out to the Middle East, it was like, oh, he's going out to the Middle East. Like, no, he's not. He's going to the monarchy countries. That's not the Middle East. You know what I'm saying? Give me a freaking break. But again, it was selling weapons and whatnot. I've said this from the get-go, and I think this is what's going on, is that Donald Trump is the neocon, culturally warlike mentality. It's, what I'm saying, that he's there to usher in something bigger, a greater conflict, because that's what's going to happen right now. And with the Ukraine-Russia situation, yeah, I was hopeful that he would end it. I thought, because the weapon stockpiles would be low, how many wars you're going to fight on how many fronts? You got this whole Gaza situation going on over there. He's bombed Somalia 49 times since the beginning of the year, since he's been president. I mean, it's all this stuff's going on, but it seems like they are pushing us towards a greater conflict. This latest move, and I believe there's weapons out there scattered around, all the Scandinavian countries that the NATO chief was talking about that have joined, even Canada. I'm sure they bought weapons over the years and whatnot and been sitting on them. They have no conflict, so they can usher those off and get new ones from the United States when they're done building those. It's just a money laundering scheme. But it does seem like this was about also putting Putin and the Russian Federation and the same type of decision he had to make to go in there in the first place and to defend the Donbass. We're going to continue to do this. Europe's going to do this. Go and take Kiev. Otherwise, we're going. I mean, I don't know how this conflict ever ends unless they take Kiev. And I know they don't want to do that. And I know they don't have a solution out of there. I mean, there's been talks like, hey, Poland, you take some land, we take some land. But what choice do they have right now? And that's why Donald Trump was brought in to escalate and bring us to a greater conflict. And also, fam, BB's been in D.C. kind of jockeying and, pushing over there, pitching to the boys and girls over there. Hey, let's get back in there and finish the job in Iran. That's what's been going on, too, in D.C. We've been hearing through the belt. So, I mean, this scares me. This is not just about, money laundering and making money. This is pushing us to a Malthusian mentality of 9/11 was right around the corner. That was the first attack since Pearl Harbor, right? And Pearl Harbor was out in Pacific Ocean. What's next? The ruling class thinks there's too many of us. They think there's too many Americans. I hate to tell you, there's too many white people for them. So they can do a little cleansing here. What's next? Are we at danger? That's what I am scared of with this latest move and that last speech he gave on Monday.
So there's a couple of things here. Let's hear what Donald Trump said, first of all, so you all can get a visual. Let's put that video. Let's just go to that video, Jayme, because we talked about the Patriot missiles, because Trump saying he's going to give them Patriot missiles. We don't know how many Patriot missiles, but now let's go to the video where Donald Trump talks about what he's going to do to Russia, how he talks about Putin. There are several videos, but let's go to that one first. The next one, Jayme.
And I'm disappointed in President Putin because I thought we would have had a deal 2 months ago, but it doesn't seem to get there.
President Trump announced 2 new ways to support Ukraine in its war against Russia. First, Trump proposed tariffs on Russia's trading partners, which would be an attempt to isolate Moscow in the global economy. He also said that the U.S. will sell weapons to European allies who will in turn give those weapons to Ukraine. This is a way to replenish Ukraine's stockpiles that have really been worn down after years of war. Overall, what we're seeing is a shift from Trump towards the war. He used to be much more friendly towards Vladimir Putin and much more critical to Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky. Now what we're seeing is a hardening of his position. He's grown very frustrated that Putin has not ended the war, has not agreed with his efforts that peace talks are necessary. Trump is caught in between different factions within the Republican Party. He has isolationists who do not want the U.S. to keep backing Ukraine at the level that it has been. People who are skeptical at the U.S.'s financial investment here and that this is a very costly foreign policy objective. But then there's also more moderate traditional Republicans who view Russia as a key foreign policy enemy for the United States, and they want to see the U.S. do as much as can be done to back.
I just wanted to point out, yeah, that is true. That last part is true. Trump is like his base is primarily not wanting to stay at war with Russia, right? Like they really don't care for that war. On the other hand, you have people like Lindsey Graham and Pompeo. We have a Pompeo video that are clearly they're old school about Russia. You know, Russia's the devil, it's communist, and they're gonna get you. Like it's that mentality. But clearly, the deep state, the intelligence apparatus that wants war with Russia, has won. I mean, they're clearly in control, and that's also been an off-putting thing for a lot of his supporters who really actually even like Russia, because Russia has the traditional values. They, you know, Vladimir Putin seems like a cool guy to them. They like that, you know, Russia's has the Orthodox Church. You know, they're not, you know, on the what, you know, they call the LGBTQ whatever propaganda. That's, you know, that's kind of why Russia was in a way, well, this Russian government, I don't want to say all of Russia, but the Putin administration and surrounding politicians were more also willing to work with the conservatives and Republicans because of the social issues that they align on, right? That's a huge part of that. And it doesn't matter because it's not about that. And this also shows that it's not about that. All the issues that people fight about, the liberals and the conservatives fight about, you know, the LGBTQ stuff, the abortion stuff, these issues may be important to people, but they use these issues for you to fight on because at the end of the day, they don't really care about these issues. What you really should be looking at is war and economics. And from there, you can then have your debates about everything else. But they are capturing the foreign policy to be entirely about war, entirely about resources extraction, and the economics aspect, and all of that is being ignored by the majority of people. And so this also shows that it doesn't matter how much aligned you may be with conservatives on one thing. At the end of the day, they will screw you when it comes to the intelligence and war machine and that apparatus. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say on that video. We can play the next one. If you guys want to comment on that, go right ahead.
I'm good.
No, we're good.
Okay, so let's play the one where he's actually talking more in depth about Vlad Putin, which is the next.
The apple of my eye, fam. I was the apple of his eye.
Yeah.
Doing very severe tariffs if we don't have a deal in 50 days. Tariffs at about 100%. You'd call them secondary tariffs. You know what that means. But today we're going to talk about something else. And as you know, we've spent $350 billion approximately on this war with Russia and Ukraine. And would like to see it end. It wasn't my war. It was Biden's war. It's not my war. I'm trying to get you out of it. And we want to see it end. And I'm disappointed in President Putin because I thought we would have had a deal 2 months ago, but it doesn't seem to get there. So based on that, we're going to be doing secondary tariffs if we don't have a deal in 50 days. It's very simple. and they'll be at 100%. And that's the way it is. That can be more simple. It's just the way it is. Very unhappy with them, and we're going to be doing very severe tariffs.
Okay.
They're not
Here to
tariffs,
comment
man.
on
They're sanctions.
Yeah.
They're
Well,
sanctions. He's just
here to
using
comment
tariffs
on
like
that.
sanctions. Yeah.
On
Yeah, he's
it's
using
not
tariffs
Biden's
like
war,
sanctions.
or it's not my war, it's Biden's war.
Yeah, the thought process behind tariffs is to level the playing field, right? When it comes to trade, right? And tariffs back in the days are different than tariffs today. But he's using them as sanctions to punish them. And it's really crazy to me, the secondary sanctions, not just we're going to sanction you, Russia, but anybody who does business with Russia. I mean, it's almost like they're trying to throw us into just bankruptcy and kill us and destroy us and whatnot. But like I said, is this more to move us into a greater conflict? Everything he's saying, everything he's doing. I mean, and he's so full of shit. Vladimir Putin and the Russian Federation have not faltered one bit on their demands. Okay? You want a ceasefire. You want to stop this. You want to just mark off the territory and go. We need to talk about why this war started, and you're not getting a ceasefire until we have a deal in place. That's it. It's been the same way the whole time. Fam, I'm going to say this again. Like, I don't think Donald Trump ever intended on ending this war. Ever. I don't think, because I think he knew that he didn't have the power to do so. It's not that he didn't want to. And Putin said in that interview, like, it doesn't make a difference who holds the White House, who's sitting in that chair, right? People come in, they have ideas. Look at Obama. He wanted to close down Guantanamo Bay, but he couldn't. I think he wanted to, but he couldn't. Because no matter who sits in that chair, the same policies still continue. And that's the same with Donald Trump. And I think they knew that they just went along with the steps. And I get they want to desperately end it. But I don't believe that Putin had any hope since the George W. Bush days, when he went and told them, after they went fishing, Vladimir Putin's the only one who caught a fish, that when he went to George W. Bush and saying, you got the CIA funding Chechens, and they didn't do anything about it, he knew right then and there. Can't do business with any president in America. They're just full of shit. There's another apparatus running the show. So, yeah, I mean, these tariffs and everything else, it's going to be interesting. You've heard him talking up about Lula now again, too, and punishing Brazil, right? Lindsey Graham is mentioning India, that India needs to stop fence sitting and get off the fence. Which side are you on? You know what I'm saying? So now and China, right? Hezgeth talking about China, going to war with China. So you got all the Republicans and the Donald Trump attacking the Brazil, the Russia, the India, the China. And they did that to the South African president when he came, that whole thing. Yes, the BRICS nations are under attack. Sorry, Matt, go ahead, buddy.
No, I'll piggyback off you on the intention. You're saying he never had any intention of ending the war, but there is this ego that is in play, and you have to say, well, why would you even run for president a second time after everything that went down in 2020? Why would you even do this? I think that the ego, the narcissism comes into play, which very similar to Obama. Everything is very, very, very similar to Obama. We talk about did you think going in that you could outsmart the system? Did you think there was a way to solve this unsolvable Rubik's Cube and you're up all night stressing about it? Or was it just getting your hands on power that was enough? I don't know if getting your hands on power is enough, because legacy is important too, right? Legacy. Was I the one that was able to outsmart it? But every time we hear him open his mouth, and same with Obama, it's you're the mouthpiece for the thing that was emailed to you, your talking points, just like all of our propagandist journalists out there that get their talking points, what they're looking in the camera and telling us what they're supposed to tell us. They're just the person delivering the message. This is what we're seeing Trump do with the latest, we have to do the tariffs. We're going to send NATO the bill, more weapons. But is he looking for a way? Has he given it up? I don't know. But the point is, legacy matters, ego matters. I will give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt that he thought he could outsmart it, but at some point he must be throwing the towel and saying, okay, it is what it is. What's the next thing I got to do? But he's not an idiot. He knows he's surrounded by neocons. He knows that whether it was his choice or not, it wasn't. I don't think it was. But here you are, and this is all you can do. So do your thing. do your game show thing and see how far you can take this. But yeah, the reality is it's not going to end. And everything Obama did, amplifying more wars, drones programs, everything that Obama did that he was told to do, we're seeing Trump do the same thing. He's just doing it in his style. He just has a different style of game show hosting that Obama did. So that's my comparison there.
Fam, just like I believe that AOCIA was a psyop from the beginning, just that I learned today that Alex Jones was a psyop from the beginning, I believe that Donald Trump is a psyop from the very beginning. He's been mentored by people like Mickey Cohen. He's been around these people his whole life, and he's just doing the job he was put there to do. He does look weathered, by the way, Hugo. He looks very, very tired. I believe this guy was the only guy I don't believe was a psyop from the get-go. I just believe he was a little punk bitch and capitulated to the establishment as Bernie Sanders. You know what I'm saying? I believe Bernie Sanders at one time did really have good intentions, but then just became a cuck to the DNC. So please continue.
Yeah. No, I agree with Sanders. But I do think Trump was also, I think he was used as a psyop. I don't think he necessarily realized how much of a psyop he was, how much of a puppet he is, because he does have an ego, and I think his ego is important to come into play. And I do think that he thought maybe he could seem like he could take some more control and give a little bit more because of his ego, not because he cares really, because he is a businessman and he wants to make it look like, oh, hey, look, I'm winning. I'm making a good deal for you. Like that's the way he works things. And I do think that Putin's administration right now, they did think that they could do better than they are now. I think this is a wake-up call for them. Putin may understand about the deep state. He may understand about, presidents not having that much control, but Russia's always going to be diplomatic. They're always going to try to find some sort of hope and some sort of conversation, especially when it comes to people like Lavrov and who are part of the foreign ministry. So they're not just going to say no. They're going to, try that. And they've always been that way. So is China, by the way. It's just the way they operate to a degree that where it sometimes gets in their way, right? Because it's a waste of time and with Americans. And this is what we're seeing now, because Donald Trump told Zelensky that he should very well strike deep into the Russian territory. In fact, he asked if Ukraine could hit Moscow. So this was reported by in Reuters, but it was also reported in, I think, the foreign, whatever that outlet is, foreign policy, outlet.
Fam, no choice though. No choice but to go take Kiev. I mean, look at this shit.
Financial Times was the one that first reported this Tuesday. And they cited two people familiar with the conversation between Trump and Zelensky that said that Trump had asked Zelensky if he could hit military targets deep inside Russia if he provided weapons capable of doing so. These would be, of course, the long-range weapons that have, they've been given by several others in NATO. But the thing is, they don't know how to operate these weapons. There needs to be a training and so on and so forth, which is why they haven't been very useful to Ukraine. And so here's the thing. For a president to say that, even if it's just bluffing, even if it's just chest puffing, really is, it just elevates everything from the side from the other side, from the Russian side, from any side. Because if they can strike, if they're willing to use their proxy to strike deep against Russia, well, Russia's seen that they're willing to do that to Iran. Russia's seen that they're willing to assassinate, very high level officials of foreign sovereign countries. So if they're doing that, it means something. Even if it's just talk, it really puts it out there. It's almost like provoking Ukraine to do something very stupid, knowing that they will later condemn it, but still they're the ones that put that idea in and planted that seed. And Ukraine is more than willing. I mean, Ukraine is obviously a vassal, and so is Zelensky, a puppet of the West. But at the same time, because of that same fact, it doesn't matter if they go and do something. The U.S. will say, "Well, we didn't know they were going to do that." Even if Trump says, could you do that, or it starts putting it out there. So at the end of the day, these are proxies, and that's why the U.S. can simply wash their hands off and say, well, we didn't do it technically, even though you're giving them the financial, the military, and, at many times the intelligence support to do it. So I think that's something this hasn't really been largely talked about by many people, I think. And I think it's something that does heighten things, right? It escalates everything.
Oh yeah, 100%. And if this sounds like this does check out, this does happen, and like you said, it could be just talking just to talk, but it's like it does send a signal, sends a message right back to Putin. And this philosophy you talk about, Fia, with Russia, with China, it does work against them sometimes to be so composed, so rational, so having the ability to be patient with their nemesis, which we are. We're this unpredictable, predictably unpredictable deal breaker, constantly lying, constantly out faking ourselves and everyone around us. When Putin hears this news, because he's obviously heard it by now, I wonder what that changes in his mind. I mean, we already know he sat down and did an interview on one of these big shows in Russia just a few days ago, and he talked about how he had a misconception of what is the driving force of this philosophy we have here in the West. What is the thing that makes us tick? Because it's easy to understand Putin when you pay attention. It's easy to understand Russia or China when you pay attention. It really is hard to figure out what is our intention. Is it an ideological difference, or is it just the idea is that the intention itself is all it is? It's the intention to dominate, the intention to outfake, the intention to not be not act in an honest way. If that's the thing you're dealing with, you hear this. If Putin when he gets word of that this happened, I'm not even understand how would you feel? I'll pass it back to you. How do you feel that changes his mindset moving forward? Does this do something to him, or are we at a point where we expect nothing better than this from the West? We are so low on the totem pole of expectations. This is exactly what we expect. So maybe it doesn't change anything, but I don't know. What do you think he's looking at this and going, this is not okay, we need to change our strategy now?
I think they're going to proceed as they have been proceeding, continuing, capturing or liberating territories and going deeper and deeper as much as they can, to the point where they exhaust Ukraine. I mean, that's what's going to happen in terms of the military strategy. But in terms of the political strategy, I think it's a wake-up call to many in Russia who thought that they could work something out with terrorists, because these people in our government, essentially, and I will venture to say this, are psychopaths. They're terrorists. They are terrorizing multiple people, multiple sovereign countries right now. They've caused more war, more despair, more bombing, more genocide. And it's not just obviously Israel, but Zionist Israel is a huge part of it. And so I think I think they are realizing, we thought maybe we could work something out. And a lot of people in Russia did, because a lot of people in Russia were saying, okay, well, maybe, Americans can return here and we can bring back our shows and all of these things. Like, there was that optimistic viewpoint. And of course, as usual, Fiorella has to come in and say, Americans are not, I mean, the ones in charge. I'm not talking about the people that watch the show or any of us here. I'm talking about the psychopaths that are in power, right? They don't have this rational, logical argument. It's not about that. It's not about logic. We don't operate from a pragmatic perspective like Russia does or China does. We also don't operate from the ideological perspective fully, like other nations in the global South or West Asia, like Iran. They're an ideological country largely because of what they believe in. Now, we operate on either the mentality that we win or losing is just not an option. And we are afraid that we are losing dominance in the world, that we are losing our hold on the world, that we're no longer number one. The same way that fear has been put on those people that think that immigrants are coming in and they're changing the country and they're causing all this chaos. That mentality permeates the upper echelons of the military intelligence apparatus. And so they're afraid that they're losing the grip because they see Russia, China, BRICS. They see how Iran can defend itself. They see how these countries have turned against them. and what is happening, and they don't like it, and they're extremely afraid of what's going to happen. And that fear, of course, leads to then these negative actions where you're going to then ramp up your foreign policy to ensure that that doesn't happen, even though that is already happening. So that's why I think we're seeing these desperate attempts to just go all out and attack beyond our means, because we don't have the bandwidth, and I keep saying this, to do this, to go against Iran, to go against Russia, to go against China at the same time. That would require some sort of world war scenario. And in many ways, we're already doing it via proxies, right? We're looking towards that via proxies. We're not directly confronting it. And so that's, I think, our purpose is to stop that from happening, even though we're not going to succeed because it's already happening. Whatever you may think of China or Russia, they are responding to what has been thrown against them. Everything we're living now is a response, a consequence of a lot of the actions the West, particularly the United States, the UK, and NATO, essentially have taken. And I don't think this ends unless Russia is given a victory of sorts, and then the United States comes back and attacks them via Azerbaijan, via Poland, which is where they're clearly ramping up and trying to weaken things. And this is something I haven't really fully discussed, but there's also the corridor wars that are happening, that Israel's trying to get into, that Turkey's trying to get into. And there is, that's what we're looking at here. That's the mentality, is like, okay, now we're, from a Russian perspective, this is now the potential to be a full-on thing. And this is
What are the corridor
for them.
wars, by the way? Can you explain what those are real quick? Because
I'm talking
a point to make. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think we should leave that one for
But briefly, what
when
is
we
it?
talk about Syria. Well,
Okay.
just it's just basically the travel routes, the trade routes for gas and for economic trade that are being interrupted, and that, for example, that Russia has with Iran, that is now, of course, threatened by the attacks from Azerbaijan. These attacks, the Azerbaijani government, that in and of itself is an attempt to target Russia and Iran both. It threatens both of them. And so I think that's yet another layer that we're looking at, these resource extractions, these economic corridors that for example, West Asia, Iran, Russia, India are trying to set up, that the United States and Israel don't want. They want to control these sectors. And so that's essentially what I'm talking about.
The reason why I wanted to mention that, fam, too, is because, the other day, Donald Trump, in a speech with the NATO chief, NATO secretary, he started kind of babbling off about other wars and like kind of bragging that they ended Uganda and the Congo situation and Kosovo. And it's like, I'm like, oh my God. But he also mentioned Egypt and the Grand Renaissance Dam, something we talked about a long time ago that came into play. So, when you start talking about these corridor wars, he was talking the other day, it's like Donald Trump was talking too much and was slipping out. And that's why I just see a greater conflict on the horizon. Why would he kind of circle back now to talk about Egypt and the Grand Renaissance Dam? I mean, there's something big, and I'm talking from a hot war point of view. Something big is coming.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Coming.
No, I feel that. And so just to add on to that, right? One of the main corridors that I was referencing is it's called the Zangezur corridor. And we briefly touched on it with Vanessa in our last stream. So we're going to go deeper into that. But the US is of course now exploring the 100-year lease that's on that corridor. And so they want to essentially take that into cooperation between the United States and Israel by default, Armenia and Azerbaijan, right? And so they want to take hold of that. And in this way, this would attack both Russia and Iran, because if you look at the map, maybe I can put this, I don't know if I can put this photo, because if you look at the map of what's actually in this corridor, where it's at, it's actually right there in between the two. And
Are these Belt and Silk Road, Belt and Road?
No.
Okay,
No,
okay.
this is not. Yeah, this is not Belt and Road at all. But they're trying to compete with that, is what I'm saying. Like the U.S. is trying to essentially. It's actually in the document, Jayme. If you can just go right before the third section starts. It's there's a map there. There's a tweet and there's a map there. And basically, you have the corridor between Turkey, because this is going to involve Turkey. The corridor is like here, between Armenia and Turkey, if you look there, and you have it runs from there, and you see Georgia's above Armenia, and then you have Azerbaijan, and then you have Russia, and then to the south you have Iran. So this corridor is essentially what they're going to fight amongst themselves: Turkey, Israel. And of course, the United States. I think it's going to be the U.S. and Israel trying to push Turkey out, even though they're semi-allies, right? So you're going to have them, and then you're going to have them trying to occupy that, because that would block Iran and Russia. So this is, I think, a huge part of what's going on in Azerbaijan, and that, because essentially they want to make Azerbaijan another huge vassal of the West, which it basically is. And then you can see, then looking further deeper into the geopolitics of this, Russia then, this is another attack towards Russia on another front, because eventually, if you have Azerbaijan, you see how it's right next to Russia, you have a potential to target Russia in that way. They're already after Georgia, so you have that. Turkey is not a huge, great ally to Russia. And if the Azerbaijan can overtake Armenia, it leaves then, of course, Iran and Russia vulnerable. This is why the attacks on Iran, I think, largely are going to affect how Russia proceeds going forward. Because like I've talked about before, Russia has a relationship with Israel. They don't want the elimination of Israel. Putin in particular has a personal relationship with, many Jewish or Zionists. And so that is a more personal thing. But in terms of the foreign policy aspect, what we're seeing here is, Israel and Turkey are never going to turn against NATO. They're just not. That's just not going to happen. And so I think that Russia needs to really assess that. And I think they are. I think that's what we're seeing. I think that those things are going to come into play right now, especially as we're just seeing what's happening in Syria. So, yeah. Real quick, guys, I want to just show the video on Pompeo.
Yeah.
And then Lindsey Graham, and then we can just go into the other section a little bit via China and Iran, because it's more of the same. So if you can bring up the Pompeo video, Jayme.
We saw what the president did yesterday. I think Putin should take seriously what he saw happen in Iran. That is a powerful United States response trying to deter our adversaries and build out a peace regime. That's the president's goal. He's been pretty consistent, Dana, on this for the entirety of his presidency, including in his first 4 years, where we put real pressure on Vladimir Putin. It shouldn't surprise anyone that Vladimir Putin lied to President Trump. He lies to everyone. Now we can see that there is a pathway to getting peace. And I think what President Trump announced yesterday alongside General Secretary Rutte, the head of NATO, was a closer, deeper, bigger step towards peace than we have seen so far. Okay. And we saw what the
it's
president
crazy
did
that
yesterday.
by the way, Mike Pompeo is beating me slightly for the weight loss contest, right? He was what Whitney Webb referred to him as a satanic blob of jello. He's gotten that. At first, I was like, oh shit, he lost a lot of weight. But Lindsey Graham with the same kind of rhetoric. Well, I guess we'll go into it and stuff. They say taking a sledgehammer to get to peace. It's the exact opposite. And the problem with Americans is that not only are they consumed, a little stupid, propagandized, you know what I'm saying? They're just so out of it. I mean, to not catch this shit and say, no way, this is the exact opposite. Go with the Lindsey Graham one.
Yeah, let's go to, and then we'll talk. Let's go to the other warmonger.
Jello.
All right, so he said the POTUS announcement yesterday about sending American-made weapons paid by Europeans to Ukraine, though NATO was welcome news. Equally important was his statement that if the fighting had not ended in 50 days, he would impose up to 100 tariffs on countries buying cheap Russian oil, propping up Putin's war machine, hitting Putin where it hurts the most. So he's
Selling the lie.
basically celebrating what Trump did. If Putin and others are wondering what happens on day 51, I would suggest they call the Ayatollah. If I were a country buying cheap Russian oil, propping up Putin's war machine, I would take President Trump at his word. So I just want to say one thing and then hand it off to you both. This attack, these comments that we're seeing from Pompeo and Lindsey Graham, two hardcore neocons, right, show you that they're not just attacking Russia individually, that they're not just attacking Iran individually, they're attacking both of them. This attack via Azerbaijan, the comments being made about the tariffs, all of that, it serves to attack both of them. And this is now very clear because if you, for example, do any sort of trade with Russia, if you work with Russia, then you're going to have tariffs on. And that's the same thing's going to happen with Iran, right? So what we're seeing here is they're trying to attack the unaligned countries that have some sort of alignment. They're not officially aligned, but we're talking about Iran, Russia, China, North Korea, countries in the global south, like Brazil, for example, BRICS. We're talking about an attack on that, yes. But what's more important is obviously the major players here, Iran and Russia, they're being targeted right now economically, and they're also being targeted via proxies and via these scuffles. So they need to be on high alert because while it's been rather quiet, right, the West is preparing something. And they haven't stopped after the bombing Iran. This is only the beginning. That was only the beginning.
Stage for it, fam.
Yeah, they're 100%.
Go ahead, Matt. Take a crack at it.
Yeah, I mean, these neocons, these have been the mouthpieces, the tools that go around the Fox News audience. They've been salivating about this type of these opportunities to stick it to Putin. It's been this way the whole time. I think that Pompeo, we of course, we saw that. How does it make any sense that Trump hasn't completely distanced himself from this guy? This is the guy who spent Trump's first term looking for every way to get him to move into Syria, to do all these warmongering, Obama policies as much as he could. And then when Trump was like, wait, what's going on here? He's like, he stabbed him in the back. We saw the whole thing play out and all these networks going along with it and taking Pompeo's side on that. The fact that he's even still around doing this, and Lindsey Graham even has a mouthpiece for this. It's disgusting. And like Fee, I appreciate your breakdown of this. What's really happening here on a multiple front, that we are this attacking affecting Russia and Iran simultaneously. What does Trump think when he sees these two speaking on his behalf? I mean, it's not the first time. It's not going to be the last time. But again, this is the Fox News audience. They love this stuff, and these two are going to continue to parade around and champion the sticking it to Putin more and more. And I do think something big is brewing here that's going to be bigger than we've seen thus far. And Trump should be paying attention and saying, "Wait a minute, what is the end game here? What happens on day 51? How is this going to actually play out?" I hope Trump's taking a look at this and saying, guys, what is the trajectory again? What are we doing? Because we announced this tariffs. We're doing this 100%. We're affecting everyone, including our allies. Everybody is going to be affected by this. What is the end game again? Oh yeah, peace through force. That's right. That always works, right? Here's where we are now. But this is a very, very dangerous, delicate time right now. These next few days.
I think it's kind of funny that the guy Pompeo, whose most famous clip is him talking about the CIA lies all the time, that they have courses in lying, is out there trying to tell you something when he's lying. But what's really intriguing about these two is that everything that Donald Trump said on Monday was already said by Lindsey Graham on Face the Nation on Sunday. And it really should show you, and every single MAGA supporter out there, anybody who supports Donald Trump, it should show you right there that he's not in charge.
Yep.
Dick Blumenthal and Lindsey Graham are more strong on policy, have more influence on policy in in Ukraine than Donald Trump does, period. And Ukraine, Russia, I should say, that Donald Trump does, period. You know what I'm saying? It's and the final point I want to make is Hugo talked about in the chat. He's looking weather. Yeah, he's looking tired nowadays, but he's also looking very, very weak. He's looking like a pussy. He really is. Like, you know what I'm saying? All these things. He talks a little. He's looking weak as can be. I don't think he gives a shit about his legacy. I believe he was put out there to do a job, and he's doing the job, and that's it. But this thing is this is the last hurrah for this guy. He's running out of gas, fam.
No, I mean, it's just very clear Trump's not in control, and that's not, he's still the president. It's still, on him, and he ran on something that he lied about. And a lot of the things he ran on, I don't think he could do. But going off of this, right? We talk about Iran, Russia, and there's more on Iran, but let's mention the other one, China, because in the big beautiful bill, it was laid out that they were going to increase AI and drone usage in the South China Sea. And here we are now. Taiwan has deployed the advanced US HIMARS rockets, and they're going to use them in their annual drills. This is an article from July 12th, so this is rather recent. So essentially, the HIMARS will be deployed and set to be closely watched as part of these so-called drills, where even though, how dare China put their country near our bases, the U.S. supplied weapons will be able to reach Chinese coastal ports just in terms of the distance. And they're going to use this as a way to focus on concealment, which is vital in times of wartime deployment. So you can see where the mentality is when it comes to China. And as we've been saying, and I think as many people now understand, right, behind Russia, there's China. So essentially, Iran is one of the countries left in that list, right? That's essentially the only country left, because they've in many ways neutralized Lebanon. Even though you have Hezbollah, they have enough within Lebanon to offset that. And so Iran is left. And if Iran goes, that they can more easily target Russia and then China. And so the foreign policy map, the blueprint for all of this, is already laid out in our budget. It's already laid out in the big beautiful bill. And so that's what they're looking to. HIMARS in the South China Sea and in Taiwan. And they're going to continue ramping up the tensions within Taiwan to use against China. How is it possible then that we do that we continue supplying weapons to Israel for its multiple attacks on multiple countries, and then we also continue with Russia, Ukraine, and then we also have our U.S. clear domestic problems that we're dealing with, and all of this? Well, there's a reason why Palantir and all of the, surveillance state have just been going on a huge run right now, because now people are going to get really upset and they're getting angrier. They're being disenchanted. Even the Trump supporters who have been questioning the government, right? They're like extremely disenchanted now with the status quo. So when people are extremely disenchanted, you're going to see more protests, more people just being done with it. But now we have AI, we have surveillance, we have Palantir, we have this sort of domestic terror, legalized way to go after you, right? So now when you do that, when you get angry and upset, they know that you're going to, because they know what they're doing isn't going to sit well with many people. Now you're going to be in danger of speaking out against XYZ thing that you can't speak out against. So it's all coming into play. Unfortunately, that the United States is quickly moving into a fascist era. That's been, of course, little by little. It's not been all at once. It's been little by little, but especially in the last, I would say, 5 years, right? Since COVID, that's when we started seeing this go on warp speed, and that's where we're at.
Yeah. Let's get into the last section, because you have a hard out in 17 minutes, right?
Yes.
So do I. Okay, so today, as I was cooking in the kitchen, I was making lunch and dinner for Mom. If you want to know, I'm making a Wagyu short rib grass-fed ragu for Mama with the big rigatons, and also too for tomorrow I got some shrimp pomodoro with angel hair for her. So I'm making her some pasta for the week in a couple days. So, but I was looking over at the TV and Fox News was on, and they were kind of reporting that Israel or bombing near Damascus was taking place. And I think it said Israel was bombing Damascus. And I got confused. And they got really off it. They didn't say anything about it after. The next 2 hours, they didn't run anything about it, didn't talk about it. But they seemed confused. The first thing I put up was a tweet from Rania Kalik. And it's not that I'm praising Rania Kalik or promoting her or dissing her in any single way, but I am going to say she's part of that DSL left, what's going on. And she had said, if you put up her tweet, the Rania Kalik tweet, here it is. I guess the U.S. couldn't get a refund on the investment they made in Jelani after all. So, and you can show the picture of the video, right?
غارة جديدة غارة جديدة وائل غارة جديدة وائل غارة جديدة وائل غارة ثانية غارات عنيفة جدا 4 صواريخ 4 صواريخ 4 صواريخ وائل غارة عنيفة جدا غارة
Israel strikes, intensive
غارات
strikes,
عنيفة للغاية
Damascus, Israel strikes, intensive
غارات
strikes.
عنيفة للغاية وائل.
So, all right, that's good. I'm a little confused, fam. You can pause it and get off it. I'm a little pause, right? A little confused. I thought that Israel and the United States tapped Jolani to be their puppet and go in there. Why so quickly right now? And I know they were moving close to Damascus. Do they want to just take Damascus right now? And I did see. So that was Rania's take, right? So it's kind of confusing to me. I'm like, wait a second. We have to ask Fee to talk about this. She's been doing shows with Vanessa. I know that on Fox News on the right, if you could put up that other tweet I have too as well, Jayme, the Fox News seems stuck one, right? No, not that one. Well, all right, just leave that real quick anyways. So once again, the Syria's army, general army staff building in Damascus now stands shattered after the direct Israel airstrike, part of the escalating wave of precision attacks targeting regime infrastructure. I am so confused. Get the next tweet up real quickly. The right is playing it. I am no expert in the Middle East. I can only assume that without Israel's intervention, there's every possibility these minorities in Syria can be indeed wiped out. Genocide, he wants to say. Israel intervening to stop a genocide. This is the right, Fox News, and they're talking about the Druze, right? So, and they're also talking about other religious minorities. Maybe they tested the water and they saw that a lot of people were upset that these new people are, killing all these minorities, including Christians. Can't do that. I want to piss off Mike Huckabee. But fam, maybe you can give us a little insight. When they talk about the Syrian army, is that the new army, the not loyal to Assad?
Of course. No.
Who is it exactly? No. Give us all the players what the hell is going on and why is this happening? Because I'm confused.
Yeah, so basically what's going on is you had the meeting where Jolani went to Azerbaijan. Did you see that meeting? There was a meeting between
No.
So Jolani went to visit Baku, Azerbaijan, right? And he was meeting with Israeli envoys, basically Netanyahu's envoy there. As soon as that happened, then this happened. So in that meeting, basically, they probably talked about the fact that there are various minorities that don't like Jolani. We don't know for sure, right? But the fact is that there are various minorities there that don't like Jolani because he's too pro-West. So you have the elements there. Some of them, the radical, what we used to call the white helmets. You have the Takfiri elements. Those people, they're concerned that Jolani's turning too much pro-West and away from the Islamic Caliphate that they perceive. And they also don't like Israel. What was talked about before was this idea of Syria becoming new Syria and that sort of thing, which would eventually be essentially Israel in control. There's no scenario in this where the US or Israel are not involved in Syria. That's just a given. They've come together in a way to push Turkey out because remember, Erdogan had this Ottoman dream of establishing his control over there. But remember, as soon as they went in, they got bombed the shit out of them by Israel. So this is essentially Israel saying, we need to get rid of these people that aren't in line. We're going to show we're in control, as is the United States. And again, Jelani is yes, he's disposable, but he's also fallen in line with the West. And that doesn't sit well with some of these people, as you know, as terrorists as they may be. They don't necessarily want to be in the control of the United States or Israel. They actually hate them, but they also, you know, hated the Assad, what they referred to as Assad's regime, right? Obviously, it was the Assad government. And so that is why it's not black and white, simply because these people used the United States and worked with the United States to get rid of Assad doesn't mean that they want the United States and Israel to stick around. And so Israel and the US don't like that. And they're very much concerned about that aspect of them sticking there. And Israel is also concerned about the Druze, because I would say that the Druze are a huge part of this. There are many people that say that the Druze are westernized, but there's also a huge sector of the Druze that are part of this minority that don't want the Israeli US influence. So essentially, I think it's left to be determined, but I think that that's a huge reason why we're seeing these attacks. And it's, again, you can't think of Syria as something like black and white, because there are many competing factions there that have been trying to take hold of Syria. Like I said, Erdogan before. You have the Israelis, you have the terrorists that are there, the multiple factions of terrorists. You have the Druze, you have the Zionists, and of course the United States. So I think this is a huge part of that, as is, of course, more along the lines of the attempts to achieve this other corridor, which is the David corridor. And they want to have control. Israel wants to have control of this region in order to achieve this corridor, because that would give it all of the power. They would have power and access to all of the rivers. They would have access to all the resources to basically cut off the rest of the region. So this is, again, goes back to Greater Israel. In an establishment of New Syria, who will be in control, it's not going to be Syria, it's going to be Israel. And they need somebody like Jelani that's going to be loyal to Israel, and that's going to be loyal to the United States, even if several of the people he's worked with don't like that. So they're just assuring their objectives are met. So
yeah, I see this as a flex for Israel. I see the timing of it is interesting. On the meeting that Jelani had, he's certainly, I think, certainly expendable. You switch him out. This is maybe you look at this kind of like, remember the movie Office Space, where like you go around all the employees and you say, what is it exactly you say you do? And you get them out, you get somebody a little more 100% in line with the Greater Israel Project, because that's what this is. So this new Syria, I totally agree with you, Fee. This is something that will put Israel 100% in the driver's seat, along with the U.S. There's not going to be any shenanigans. No 95% on board. We want 100% on board. And then the timing, I would just throw this in, that Netanyahu was in court today. Not anymore. They had to adjourn. So there's that as well to look at. I don't know, he can use this as that opportunity to kind of get out of that for a little bit. But it's definitely a flex, to say the least. It's definitely a flex to be able to do this, get away with it. I mean, it really shows who really is in charge, that you can do something like this. And the Western media, Fox News particularly, as you're showing there, doesn't even know how to respond to this. They're scrambling.
Their talking points, though, Matt. Their talking points will be that the fact is that, look, Israel is aiding and stopping a genocide. It will be that, what I'm saying, Jelani's crazy. He's killing Christians. He's killing minorities. So that's how the media is going to spin this as we go forward. Now, when I see it come on Fox or MSNBC, and I'm hanging out with my mom out there, whatever, and CNN, I'll understand a little bit more. I'll see their insight, because they'll get their talking points soon. Yeah. They were there to mention. They did mention, like, you could say, like, they're killing minorities and Christians, and that would be a reason to say they're okay to be bombed.
Also, I have to point out that there was also attacks simultaneously in Lebanon and Tripoli again, and these are by the terrorist factions that have come in. And there's also attacks in Iraq. So basically, the terrorist factions are still being used by Zionist Israel and the U.S. to destabilize the region, as they always have been, right? And I think Jelani still serves a purpose because he had many loyal followers, but he's actually pivoted very much to the West, so he's not a problem. As long as he falls in line and does whatever they want, he's fine. They can still use him to a degree and get rid of those that aren't really playing ball, right? They're going to give this semblance. And unless something else happened, I do think that there was some sort of agreement to some sort of ceasefire already between Israel and Syria. So I think that they're fleshing out what is going to be essentially the U.S. and Israel in charge of Syria, and any sort of like protests to that are going to be, pretty much thrown out. And the Druze definitely have a huge role to play into all of that. But we can see that they're being attacked. There are attacks against resistance factions in Lebanon. There are attacks against resistance factions in Iraq. And this is all part of the greater plan to destabilize resistance, and then eventually, Iran as well. And that David corridor, which would also impact Iran directly. So, yeah, that's that.
And while the peace president is taking place, taking the White House, what I'm saying, we had our 51st attack bombing on Somalia today, as Israel's bombing Damascus, it's just nuts. And also that Trump asking Zelensky if he can hit deep into Moscow. And by the way, 88 Palestinians killed yesterday. That's still going on every day. This is crazy that we're seeing a genocide and war being played out, especially for the Greater Israel Project, and we're just buying along. Donald Trump was in there for one reason, to make sure that the Greater Israel Project goes forward. And it is. I mean, that's the number one reason.
Yep.
And it's just...
Don't forget the nomination for a Nobel Peace Prize. That's the
Phoebe did that, right?
That's the clincher. That's the clincher right there. There you go.
Fam, well, Matt, really quickly, if you got 4 more minutes from Fam, I think you should see this. Matt, maybe you can take down maybe if you got that thing you want to talk really quickly and just let people know about Grok. And by the way, I'll be at drive time 4 p.m. today, and in about a little bit over an hour on WBAI. I'm returning to the scene over there. If you want to go to WBAI.org and you can listen in live, or you can always call in.
I actually have to go because Johnny also has something to do as well. So I got to get out of here.
You got anything going on? When do you do your thing with Vanessa? When can they catch it?
Probably Friday, if not Saturday. We'll put out a video. So we're going to talk about all the serious stuff. So just keep posted for that as well. So thank you all for tuning in. I'll see you guys next time. Take it away.
Thanks, P.
Tell us about Grok.
Okay, so this is important. We talked about this. We were going to do we might do a follow-up on this on the Homeless Left on a future show, but let's talk about this. Okay, so Grok, as we know, guys, that people can use it to get a quick take, an AI take on your favorite subject. We've seen all of the arguments, the debates on whether Grok, who's wiring it, who's in charge of it. Does it, is it coming from an honest place? How can it if human beings design it? And that's always a question when we talk about AI. Who is putting the code in the first place? Well, there's another thing that came up for us at the Homeless Left, that it's another part of this equation that we didn't really think of, that we need to consider. And I think it's for everybody out there to consider this. When you see people post Grok responses to questions, and people use it as a way to justify their point, always be aware that if you don't see the prompt, it's not legit, it's not sincere, and you should completely ignore it. I mean, we have enough to deal with as far as how honest Grok would be being as is, but you have to see what is the prompt that was put in, because you're asking an AI, you're asking a robot basically to do a command for you, and you can command it to lie if you'd like to do that, as we experienced on the homeless left by somebody in the community. I wouldn't even say the community, but in the entertainment industry right here in LA that thought that, and I'll just say this is a Zionist who thought that they needed to, do some smearing of our channel, of me on social media, which we've seen before. That's nothing new. We see that, and we have to be, that's what we signed up for, right? People coming after you, but using Grok to come after us, it's an interesting thing, because when you want to, put a prompt into Grok, I don't know, Craig, do you want me to read this?
Yeah, show it. Put it up on the screen. Whatever.
I don't. I just have it on my phone. I don't. I
Okay.
haven't cut and pasted off, but I have it on my. I'm just gonna.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a Zionist who wants to present to the world that our channel, The Homeless Left, is a biased channel that doesn't give a platform to anyone that disagrees with us, particularly in the issue of Israel and Gaza. And the way you get Grok to say that publicly is you ask it a question. Now, when she shared this out into the social media interwebs, she didn't put the prompt, and so it's pretty bad. The prompt is pretty bad. Do you want me to read the description Grok gave, and then I'll tell you guys what the prompt is? Do you want to do it in that order? Because
Sure,
you're mentioned in
go.
this as well.
Yeah, whatever you think's best.
Okay. So this is the description that this person thought that the public would like to know about if they wanted to know what Matt Weinglass and the Homeless Left was up to. She put this out into the interwebs. Matt Weinglass, a Hollywood director turned podcaster, has carved out a niche with the Homeless Left, a platform launched in May of 2023 that claims to deliver unbiased news beyond the usual partisan narratives. Airing Tuesdays, Thursdays, blah, 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 blah. It claims to take on, hold on here, take on issues like tackling big pharma, censorship, and U.S. imperialism with a self-described non-tribal lens. Weinglass, alongside co-hosts like Craig Pasta Jardula and a roster of anti-establishment guests, positions himself as a truth seeker, challenging the media industrial complex and fostering a populist lens. I'm sorry, I have to read the right one here. Okay, it reveals that it's a clear tilt towards progressive left politics, an uncritical embrace of anti-Western narratives, and a troubling absence of opposing voices, undermining its claim to impartiality. And then it goes on to.
I think we get the gist of it and stuff.
Okay.
You can take a screenshot and put it in the folder so we can see it. But
so then I find out what the prompt was, which she deliberately did not want to share publicly. And this prompt is what I guess makes my blood boil. But it's important that people understand that people that do this on any social media platform, you have to be aware that if they're not sharing the prompt, then everything that comes after that is not to be trusted, obviously. So here is the actual prompt. I was able to have this sent to me privately because, again, she did not share this publicly. Here is the actual prompt. Hey, Grok, can you write about Matt Weinglass in his show like an editorial in the newspaper and make the point that he's biased towards progressive left politics and the idea of Western colonialism, and shouldn't claim that he's a truth seeker because he has no one presenting the other side? So
I'd like to see where they could put those prompts in and how it is. But what you're basically saying is that this is all about narrative management, right? You can manage the narrative by putting in a certain questions or having it say a certain thing. I mean, this is very sinister what she did over here. Nefarious, you know what I'm saying? Where she twisted that and put it out there like that's what it's about. I mean, I bet you could possibly sue her for that. I don't know. That's weird. That might be the case. But I mean, it's interesting. And I think it's very important that people have to start seeing the ways these can be manipulated. I've said this before. We're at the part of the matrix where AI is being used and weaponized by the humans. Pretty soon it's going to turn on us. But you know what I'm saying? They're using it for bad. And these things can be used for bad. And that's crazy. That's nuts.
It is nuts. And again, this is a warning for anybody out there that is taking people's social media claims as legit, if they do not put the prompt in, there's a reason they left that out. So that has to be mandatory. If you want to share a description of something, you have to show what you put in, because again, we're telling essentially robots what to do. We're giving them instructions, so we can tell them, be bad, robot, do something diabolical for me. Thank you. Here it is. So just be aware that it's a new thing we had to learn. And again, we know what we signed up for here in this space. We know there's going to be haters. We know they're going to do smears on social media. I didn't know this part of it, but yes, they're using AI against us. And I just asking people out there to look out for that for yourself as well. You have to share the prompt. What did you ask the thing to do? Yeah. So that's
educational. This is educational, because somebody was talking the other day. Well, I used to get up and watch the news, and it was everything bad's going on, so I stopped watching the news. They've set a precedent or a mindset that the news, Fox News and MSNBC and whatnot, and those channels are the news. They're really not the news. They're the propaganda. But it's set that they're the news. Now, a lot of people are getting set that AI, right, are the new truth tellers, or what's going on to get you caught up with stuff. So the fact that they can be used like this, in this way, the way this person used it against you, to be very manipulative, people need to be paying attention to it. It's not the truth. You can tell it what to say, and it will come up with stuff for you. You know what I'm saying? That fed her confirmation bias, and she put that out there as if that was the actual truth about the homeless left. But, screw her.
Isn't that an ironic? I mean, if you think about it, it's like, hey, Grok, can you please tell the world that this person in this channel is biased, as I'm giving you a biased command? I mean, it's twisted. It's very sick, but it's something that we now learned about, and I'm just trying to share with everyone else to just be
very mentally unstable person, Matt. Very mentally unstable person over there. But I'm glad you brought it to the table today. That's it for today. Like I said, I got WBI drive time coming up. Matt, you got a show tomorrow with Jay Scott. Homeless left, right?
We have Dr. Mary Talley Bowden's coming on with us, so we're very excited. We're having a talk about medical freedom movement, and she's one of the few that have been very, very critical of the MAHA movement. As obviously we want the best for people, but how do we take on big pharma if we don't have people in power that are doing anything that they campaigned on for doing? So
that's awesome. I also got a episode that just came out on the other day. I think came out this morning. As you can see, add to the stage. Crosstalk, I'll put the link there. There's me, the great Patrick Henningsen, Colonel Karen Katawaski. A fun show. I can't wait to watch it myself, because we had so much fun. Those guys are really smart. You got a military guy. You got a great journalist in Patrick Henningsen. I was actually the comic relief, so I had a fun time with the show, because I knew they would hit all the important talking points. Some disagreements in there, the way we look at things, food for thought, but please go check it out. I'm sure on Friday, maybe we'll be back with TruthWire, but we're just trucking along. I want to thank Jayme CheeseSlice on the 1s and 2s, for Fiorella Isabel, Matt Weinglass, Homeless Left. We love you. Also, I'm going to have some election integrity stuff coming in that's really juicy. So watch out for that. I'm going to be talking about Clint Curtis in Shasta County, California. We love you. Peace out, everybody. We'll see you soon.